Have you ever noticed who truly holds the power in any room? It is never the loudest voice, but the most observant silence. It is the one whose stillness commands more respect than a king's decree. This is the man who moves through the world like a ghost, his intentions veiled, his impact undeniable. He has mastered the art of being underestimated, turning the world's noise into his own personal intelligence network. Welcome to the Sigma male community, the one place that understands that true power isn't proclaimed, it's possessed. Here we don't chase the spotlight. We analyze its every beam from the shadows, understanding that the greatest strength is forged not in public validation, but in the crucible of stoic self-mastery and silent, unyielding resolve. We are the architects of our own reality, building empires within ourselves before we ever place a single stone in the outside world, guided by an internal compass that scoffs at external praise. 1. The invisible advantage, blending in. Forget the desperate scramble to dominate the room and be the center of attention, a fool's errand that bleeds energy and exposes every vulnerability. The quiet Sigma male has mastered the profound art of invisibility, a strategic advantage that loud, insecure egos can never comprehend. While others broadcast their every thought, their every move, and their every weakness in a desperate plea for validation, the Sigma dissolves into the background, becoming a mere shadow on the wall. This is not the timid hiding of the weak, it is the tactical camouflage of the predator. Unseen and unperceived, he becomes the ultimate observer, immune to the petty power plays, the emotional turbulence, and the manipulative games that ensnare the common man. His true power blossoms in these shadows as he silently gathers intelligence, mapping the psychological terrain while his perceived competitors exhaust themselves under the harsh glare of the spotlight. When he finally chooses to step into the light, it is not a tentative emergence but a detonation of such calculated force that no one could have anticipated it. This deliberate and cultivated obscurity is his most potent superpower, a cloak that allows him to move through the world undetected, to bypass the ego defenses of others, and to position himself with a chilling and unnerving precision. The world, in its noisy ignorance, consistently dismisses the quiet one, mistaking profound stillness for absence and a lack of contribution. This fundamental miscalculation is the fatal flaw that the Sigma mercilessly exploits. By the time the room finally awakens to the realization that the silent shadow held all the cards, that the quiet observer possessed the real power, the Sigma's objective has already been decisively achieved. He is gone, leaving behind only the silent, lingering echo of his devastating and undeniable effectiveness, a ghost who has already moved on to the next chessboard while others are still staring at the pieces he masterfully toppled. 2. Patience, the temporal weapon. For the Sigma, time is not a relentless master to be feared or a constraint to be overcome. It is ammunition to be stockpiled and deployed with lethal accuracy. Where ordinary men fidget with anxiety and attempt to force premature outcomes through sheer brutish effort, the Sigma cultivates a glacial and profound patience that borders on the sublime. He possesses a deep, intuitive understanding that true, unshakable leverage comes not from seizing the first available opportunity, but from waiting for the perfect one. From his detached vantage point, he watches the emotional storms of others rage and fizzle out. He observes empires built on the shifting sands of arrogance and hype, and he witnesses rivals self-immolate in their own desperate haste. All the while he remains perfectly still, conserving his precious energy, refining his strategy, and allowing the battlefield to shape itself to his advantage. This unnerving stillness is not passivity. It is the coiled, kinetic tension of a master predator, perfectly synced with the rhythm of its environment, waiting for the precise moment of maximum vulnerability. This profound patience acts as a disruptive force against the frantic, dopamine-fueled pace of the modern world. It creates a vacuum of tension, an uncomfortable silence that others desperately scramble to fill, and in their haste, they invariably reveal their fatal flaws, their hidden insecurities, and their strategic weaknesses. The Sigma waits, a silent sentinel, observing the cracks in his opponent's armor as they widen under pressure, watching their arrogance peak into a blinding hubris, and identifying the exact moment their defenses are at their absolute weakest. Then and only then does he choose to strike. His move is executed with a timing so impeccable, so flawlessly aligned with the currents of the situation, that it feels like an act of destiny rather than a calculated design. His victory was not won in the final decisive action, but was forged and secured in the silent, lonely hours of waiting that everyone else was too impatient and too blind to endure. 3. Silence, the strategic crucible. Forget the shouting matches and the empty posturing of those who believe volume equates to value. The Sigma male wields silence like a surgeon's scalpel, with precision and devastating effect. In a world hopelessly addicted to noise, validation, and the constant broadcast of inner turmoil, his disciplined refusal to speak becomes an overwhelming and dominant force. It creates a profound discomfort in others, a psychological vacuum that they rush to fill with nervous chatter, with unprompted admissions, with foolish boasts, or with the unguarded truths they would otherwise protect. This silence is not emptiness, it is a high-pressure strategic crucible. Within this quiet space, the Sigma analyzes every uttered word, every revealing micro-expression, every subtle shift in the emotional atmosphere, all while gathering a devastating arsenal of intelligence as his opponent figuratively bleeds out, exhausting themselves in a one-sided conversation. This calculated and sustained muteness is a form of supreme psychological dominance. It immediately forces others onto the back foot, compelling them to second-guess their own positions, to over-explain their motives, and ultimately, to reveal their entire hand without the Sigma having to make a single demand. This strategic use of silence amplifies the weight and impact of his eventual words, giving them a crushing, undeniable gravity. When he does choose to break his quiet, it is never to engage in frivolous conversation. It is to deliver a single, surgical statement that cuts through all the preceding noise and irrevocably alters the landscape of the situation. His power is not found in the volume of his voice, but in the terrifying and accumulated potency of the unspoken, and the perfectly timed deployment of the spoken word. 4. The Art of Calculated Disappearance. True mastery of one's domain is not merely about making a powerful presence known. It is about knowing precisely when to vanish, leaving a void that speaks louder than any words ever could. The Sigma male does not linger in emotionally draining battles, pointless arguments, or predictable social games that offer no return on his investment of time and energy. When he astutely calculates that the cost of engagement outweighs the potential gain, or when the necessary lesson has been learned and absorbed, he executes a swift and silent withdrawal. This is not the cowardly retreat of a defeated man, it is a strategic redeployment of his most valuable asset, his energy. In his absence, a deafening statement is made, a void is created that often leaves chaos, mediocrity, or unresolved tension to implode upon itself, now lacking his stabilizing or subtly disruptive force. This vanishing act is, in itself, a profound power move. It forces those left behind to confront the vacuum his presence once filled, often leading them to a belated and painful realization of his indispensable role, his sharp intellect, or the quiet stability he provided. He does not stick around waiting for apologies, acknowledgments, or praise. His internal framework of self-worth makes such external validation utterly irrelevant. He has already pivoted, his focus redirected towards higher value endeavors and more meaningful challenges. His departure is always clean, utterly decisive, and conducted entirely on his terms. This discipline protects his energy from psychic vampires, maintains his enigmatic mystique, and ensures that he remains an unpredictable force, a ghost whose influence and impact linger long after he has disappeared from view. 5. Weaknesses forged into unbreakable armor. Our modern, validation-obsessed society is quick to label traits like quietness, emotional detachment, and deep introspection as flaws, as social handicaps that need to be fixed. The Sigma, however, is an alchemist of the soul. He takes these perceived weaknesses and, through the fire of a stoic mindset, transmutes them into his most impenetrable armor. His quiet nature is not a sign of shyness, but a powerful shield against the endless distractions of the world, allowing for a state of hyper-observation that others can never achieve. His emotional detachment is not coldness, but a carefully cultivated fortitude that grants him crystalline clarity in the midst of chaos. His introversion is not a weakness but a deep, inexhaustible well of self-sufficiency, freeing him completely from the desperate, crippling need for external validation that holds so many others in chains. Where the loud and the insecure constantly seek affirmation from the outside world to prop up their fragile egos, the Sigma draws his immense strength from the unshakable citadel within. The very traits that society misjudges as weaknesses become the foundational pillars of his power, making him untouchable by petty drama, immune to emotional manipulation and relentlessly focused on his mission. He has masterfully turned society's flawed judgment into his greatest strategic advantage. While others constantly expose their soft underbelly in a pathetic search for approval and acceptance, the Sigma's calm, unassuming exterior conceals an inner resilience forged from embracing the very things that others fear or misunderstand. His armor is not made of loud, clanking metal. It is forged from the quiet, adaptable and unbeatable strength of shadow and profound self-knowledge. You feel the shift coming within you as you listen. Whether you are beginning to recognize the dormant Sigma within yourself or you are here on the Sigma Male Community channel to study the apex predators of social dynamics, you must understand this fundamental truth. Knowledge is utterly inert without decisive application. That quiet intensity brewing inside you, that strategic patience you admire, it's not meant for passive observation. It is a direct call to action, a summons to recalibrate your own presence in the world. Ask yourself, what unnecessary noise are you generating in your life that serves only to drain your energy and expose your position? In which arenas of your life can you dissolve into the background not to hide but to gain the ultimate upper hand? The principles we are dissecting here are not abstract philosophical concepts. They are the core components of an operating system for men who refuse to play life on its default settings. Take a moment to analyze your current battlefield, your career, your relationships, your personal goals. Where does your silence need to speak the loudest? What perceived weakness within you can you begin to weaponize next? The path forward is not about becoming a carbon copy of someone else. It is about awakening and mastering the latent, formidable power that already exists within your own quiet resolve. Now back to the blueprint. 6. The disruptive utterance speaking to Shatter. When a Sigma male who has been silent for a prolonged period finally chooses to speak, the entire room fractures. He does not engage in idle chatter or contribute to the noise, he detonates meaning. His words, having been forged in the silent furnace of intense observation and deep contemplation, are reserved solely for moments of maximum, undeniable impact. A single ice-cold sentence delivered with calm precision can dismantle a carefully constructed facade, expose a deeply buried lie, or pivot the entire group's understanding of a situation onto a new axis. This is not conversation. It is linguistic precision bombing. It is a calculated act designed to shatter complacency, to cut through delusional narratives, and to force a confrontation with an uncomfortable but necessary truth. The reason his speech is so unpredictable and devastatingly effective is that it carries the accumulated weight and energy of everything he has left unsaid. It slices through the ambient noise of the room with an undeniable clarity and authority, leaving no room for argument, no space for rebuttal, only a stunned silence or the slow, dawning realization of those who have just been fundamentally outplayed. He does not speak merely to participate in the dialogue. He speaks to permanently alter the course of events, to reveal the hidden truths that others were desperately trying to bury beneath layers of social pleasantries and outright deception. Long after he falls silent again, the echo of his rare words lingers in the air, a powerful testament to the immense power that can be concentrated in deliberate, purposeful speech that follows a period of profound silence. 7. The relentless mental algorithm. Beneath the placid and often unreadable exterior of the quiet Sigma, his mind operates like a relentless high-performance supercomputer. While those around him are reacting with raw emotion, jockeying for attention or being swayed by social pressures, the Sigma is perpetually calculating, processing, and simulating. He absorbs and analyzes every data point, the subtle micro-expressions that betray a person's true feelings, the almost imperceptible shifts in environmental energy, the unspoken tensions between individuals, and the branching probabilities of multiple potential futures. This is not the anxious overthinking of the neurotic. It is a state of hyper-awareness that has been transformed into a predictive and powerful strategic tool. He sees the complex chain of dominoes and understands their inevitable path long before the first one has even begun to fall. This constant, silent mental simulation allows him to navigate life's most complex and volatile situations with an eerie, almost preternatural calm. He appears unshakable because in the private theater of his mind, he has already run countless scenarios, anticipated the most likely countermoves, and identified the hidden leverage points long before any actual conflict arises. To the outside observer, his actions appear fluid, decisive, and even effortless. This is because all the hard work, The painstaking analysis, the development of contingency plans, the wargaming of potential outcomes, happened invisibly, in the silent depths of his mind. He doesn't just play the game as it is presented to him. He has already simulated its endgame from multiple angles, ensuring that his path to dominance or a successful outcome is not a matter of chance, but is pre-mapped and all but inevitable. 8. Non-intervention, letting foes self-destruct. The Sigma male possesses the supreme and often misunderstood discipline of strategic inaction. When he observes an arrogant rival, a toxic personality, or a poorly conceived plan spiraling uncontrollably towards its own self-immolation, he will not lift a single finger to stop it. This is not an act of cruelty or malice. It is an exercise in ruthless efficiency and the conservation of precious energy. He understands a fundamental law of human dynamics. That unchecked ego, blinding recklessness, and fundamentally flawed logic are forces of nature far more destructive than any intervention he could possibly muster. Why would he waste his own energy and resources to fight a battle that his adversary is so diligently and enthusiastically fighting against themselves? Why step in front of a train that is already careening off the rails? This philosophy of strategic non-intervention serves a dual purpose. Firstly, it conserves his vital resources, his time, his focus, and his emotional capital, for battles that truly matter. Secondly, it allows him to remain completely above the fray, untangled from the ensuing drama and chaos. From this detached position, he is granted a perfect, unobstructed view to observe the critical weaknesses, the flawed patterns of thinking, and the emotional instabilities that are revealed in the midst of the collapse. He learns invaluable lessons while his opponent diligently digs their own grave. The Sigma knows, with a certainty born of Stoic wisdom, that the most satisfying and effortless victories often come not from direct conquest, but from calmly and patiently witnessing the inevitable consequences of another's hubris unfold with a perfect, almost poetic justice. 9. Beyond proof, the sovereignty of action. The Sigma male operates from an unshakable inner citadel, a fortress of self-belief and internal validation that is impervious to the opinions of the outside world. Consequently, he feels zero compulsion to explain his motives, to justify his decisions, or to prove his worth to anyone. His validation comes not from the applause of the crowd, but solely from the undeniable results he consistently generates and the unwavering integrity of his own internal compass. He views debates, arguments, and the performative displays of competence that others engage in as the exhausting and pointless games of the deeply insecure. He has nothing to prove, only to execute. Why waste breath arguing about the sharpness of the axe when you can simply let the felled tree speak for itself? This quiet sovereignty is profoundly unnerving to those who rely on external feedback loops for their sense of self. It renders traditional tactics of social pressure, provocation, or intellectual challenges completely useless against him. While others are desperately posturing, seeking applause, or fishing for recognition, the Sigma is already 3 moves ahead, his mind focused with singular intensity on execution and outcomes. His confidence is not loud or boastful. It is a silent, palpable energy that radiates not from his words, but from the quiet competence and tangible impact of his actions. When he achieves his goals, it doesn't feel like a surprise or a hard-won battle. It feels inevitable, a natural and unavoidable consequence of his focused intent, not a desperate plea for the world's acceptance. He is the calm, unwavering eye of the storm that he so often quietly creates. 10. Hyperobservation, seeing the unseen matrix. The quiet Sigma perceives the world in a definition so high that it would overwhelm an ordinary mind. While others see faces, he sees the subtle, fleeting flicker of doubt in a supposedly confident gaze. While others feel a handshake, he detects the subtle, unspoken tension that reveals hidden resistance. He hears not just the words being spoken, but the glaring incongruence between the words and the body language that screams of deception. He is a master at absorbing the thousands of data points that most people filter out as irrelevant noise. The subtle shift in a room's energy when a certain topic is raised, the unspoken alliances revealed by shared glances, the hidden power structure that truly dictates the flow of events. Nothing escapes the net of his calibrated and ever-watchful awareness. This is not a psychic ability or some mystical gift. It is a skill of trained, disciplined focus, honed over years of deliberately minimizing his own output to maximize his sensory input. His strategic silence acts as a powerful sensory amplifier, allowing him to perceive the intricate, invisible web of human motivations, deep-seated fears, and carefully constructed lies that most people navigate with blissful ignorance. This profound, multi-layered perception allows him to anticipate moves before they are made, to sidestep traps that were set for others, and to manipulate complex situations with minimal and seemingly effortless action. He can do this because he understands the real game that is being played beneath the superficial performance of everyday life. He doesn't just watch people, he decodes their operating systems. 11. Controlled emotional detonation, the final safeguard. Never make the fatal mistake of confusing the Sigma stoic calm for a lack of fire or passion. Beneath that cool, controlled, and placid surface lies a core of potent, intensely focused and tightly controlled energy. The Sigma's emotional core is not absent or suppressed. It is masterfully compartmentalized and, when necessary, weaponized. He feels emotions just as deeply as anyone else, perhaps even more so, but he fundamentally refuses to be ruled by fleeting passions or reactionary impulses. This supreme self-mastery, a cornerstone of his stoic mindset, allows him to channel intense focus, unwavering determination, or even a righteous and cold fury with the precision of a laser, but only when it serves a clear and definite strategic objective. He is the master of his inner fire, not its slave. This absolute control is his ultimate safeguard and his most powerful weapon. It prevents him from being baited into foolish conflicts by those who try to provoke him. It stops him from making impulsive, emotionally driven mistakes that could prove costly down the line. It ensures he never reveals his true hand or his deeper intentions through unintentional emotional leakage. But when he makes the conscious, calculated decision to unleash this controlled energy, whether it manifests as a relentless and unstoppable drive towards a goal, an icy and unbreakable resolve in the face of adversity, or a swift and devastating counterstrike against a threat, it is overwhelming precisely because of its rarity and its singular focus. It is not a chaotic, uncontrolled outburst. It is the calculated and deliberate release of a dam, its immense force directed with crushing power exactly where it will achieve the maximum possible effect. The silence you command is your territory. The patience you cultivate is your weapon. As you leave this video, the principles we've dissected are no longer just concepts. They are a call to action echoing in the quietest, most powerful parts of your mind. This is not about changing who you are. It is about awakening the dormant force you were always meant to be. The path of the Sigma is a solitary one, but here at the Sigma male community, you walk it with others who understand the language of silence, strength, and self-reliance. If this resonated with you, if you felt a truth in these words that the loud world fails to grasp, then solidify your commitment to this path. Let the algorithm know that this is the content that matters. Like this video to signal your understanding. Comment below with the point that resonated most deeply with your own experience. Share this blueprint with a brother who is walking a similar path but may not have the words for it yet. And if you haven't already, subscribe and, most importantly, turn on all notifications, because you cannot afford to miss the next piece of the puzzle. This is more than a channel. It is your arsenal for a life of purpose, power, and profound stoic freedom. Stay dangerous, stay quiet, and stay focused,